Hello and welcome to episode 48 of the Tea and Possibilities podcast. I'm Nikki and this is a podcast all about knitting, crochet and making all the things here in East London. I'm in a few places online. You can find me at hippie_Nikki on Instagram. I'm Nikki Hippie on Ravelry, and if you would like to join the Ravelry group, you can search for Tea and Possibilities under the groups tab and you will find our group right there. If you are a new viewer, thank you so much for giving the podcast a shot. I really do appreciate it. And if you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. I would like to say a particular thank you to you because I know I've been a bit erstwhile, and I will talk about that a little bit more in Knit and Natter. So I do really appreciate you tuning in for the latest episode. Today's tea is not tea. It is actually a lemon, honey and ginger to help with my sore throat. I don't think you can hear that I've got a sore throat. I don't sound particularly scratchy or gravelly. It's just quite sore when I swallow and when I eat. A little bit like I've had my tonsils out again, which is unpleasant. I feel fine otherwise, so I'm hoping it is just my terrible hay fever. I did miss a couple of days of taking my antihistamine, so I'm just hoping it's that and not anything worse. The weather here in England has been glorious. No doubt you have seen all over Instagram everyone talking about the heat wave because it did get pretty crazy for a while there. I work in a listed building, so we don't have air conditioning, and it got pretty hot and I revelled in it. I absolutely loved it, as much as a very pale person can. You can probably see I've got a little like tan line from my watch, but that's about as dark as I go. But I did really appreciate it when it rained because it just ended the humidity, which was kind of a struggle to live with and to sleep with. So I'm really enjoying a couple of rainy days at the moment, but more than happy to see the return of the sun. And that's me wittering on about the weather really, when that's not what you're here for. But I am English, and it is in my DNA to talk about the weather, so apologies. But yeah, I'm just trying to soothe my my slightly sore throat. I did take a Strepsils and it was fine for about 10 minutes, but it's come back with a vengeance, so bear with. Oh God, that's so good. Honestly, Rich makes really good food. He does. He makes good cocktails, anything like with flavours and food and drink, he's great at. Even a honey and lemon. Who knew? Right, let's move on to what you're all here for and talk about Whipped Up. Now the weather and life have kind of conspired against me a little bit, so I haven't had loads of knitting time, which is a real shame, and I am hoping to rectify that very soon. I've got a couple of like big priority things I need to do in the evenings this week, but I'm going to try and squeeze in as much knitting and making as possible. But that doesn't mean I haven't been knitting. I wouldn't be here if I hadn't been knitting. But I do have a faux for you. Ta-da! I bet you never thought that you would ever see me finish these, but I have finished them. These are my Selbu Mittens by Skein, and they are knit out of the Knitting Swede. The grey is London Fog and the orange is Samarkand. I believe that's how you pronounce it. I could be completely wrong. And it's in their Spartan DK base. I love these. This orange, I would dearly love to get a sweater quantity because I'm quite pale, particularly at the moment my hair's quite yellow from being in the sun, so I don't know if it would suit me, but I love it and I don't care. But they're done, they're finished. I have made some colourwork mittens and I have so much to say about these. Firstly, I did knit these for my nan, she hasn't seen them yet. I've been holding on to them for the podcast. They're already an incredibly, hugely belated Christmas present, so I figured a couple more weeks wouldn't hurt. Sorry, Nan, but it's been a heat wave. You don't need them just yet. But I don't know if they're going to fit her. I'm really hoping they do. They fit me like a glove. God, I don't need to give up the day job, do I? I have got quite long spindly fingers, got quite long spindly everything to be fair, whereas I think she might have slightly broader knuckles, I guess. So where these fit me quite well, I wonder if that's because I've got quite narrow hands. If so, I will knit her another pair. I really hope these fit her though, because, you know, I did make them for her. But let's talk about knitting the colour work. I really struggled with the colour work, I have to say. I got in a bit of a tangle and just found it really tricksy. I couldn't get the hang of using the yarn on each finger, so I kept dropping it and picking it up, which seemed to work quite well for me, despite the tangle. And getting the tension was a bit of a struggle. But I was actually really pleased. This is the first one I knit. I was really pleased with the palm on this. I thought I'd done a really good job. And I thought this side was quite lumpy and wrinkled. I think I said in the last episode I was really unhappy with how lumpy it was. On this one, I actually did a better job on the flower motif than I did on the palm, I thought. There's also a little mistake in the palm that I didn't notice till like I'd nearly finished it. And I hope that my nan won't notice. Because yeah, I basically finished it when I realised, and it's not super noticeable, so I think it's fine. It's all the little details that make it special, right? But then I blocked them. So I finished them and I was very happy to finish them. I cast both thumbs on as soon as I'd finished the mitten itself, because I know Ellie of Skein Deer said that if you don't do the thumbs immediately, they can kind of just sit there for ages. And I wanted to get them done. So I cast them on literally as I bound off the top, I cast on the thumb. And I was quite happy with them. I was very happy to have them finished because they're a very long-standing whip. But I thought, what a shame. You know, what beautiful yarn, what a beautiful pattern. What a shame that my horrible lumpy colour work has like not done it justice. And then I blocked them. And I have never seen blocking have this much of an effect. I don't really knit any lace, so I've never had that moment of where the lace just blooms. This was like magic. They smoothed out like almost immediately. I didn't even have to wait for them to dry. And I ran into the kitchen with this like damp mitten in my hand and was like, look Rich, look at this, look how smooth it is. And you know, he knew how kind of annoyed I was with what I thought was a terrible job. So he was quite pleased for me. And they're still a bit lumpy in places. But I think for a first go on colour work, that's not bad. I'm really happy with these. I do see more colour work in my future. When I was at Edinburgh Yarn Festival, I bought the yarn from Isolde and the pattern to make her Millet mittens, the ones that have come to like a star at the top of the fingers. And there are a couple more patterns of Ellie's that I would love to do. And I do have plenty of yarn left over, so I might do a couple more of the Skein Deer Selbu Mitten Club and just kind of improve my technique. I don't think that I'm at a yoke sweater, a colourwork yoke sweater kind of stage yet. I do want to do a few more smaller projects, like a couple more mittens, maybe even some socks, maybe some special Christmas socks. I could give them a go. But I'm no longer intimidated by colourwork, which is pretty amazing. I'm just really chuffed with them. I'm just so happy with them. So I hope my nan likes them too, and I hope they keep her warm. So that's it for faux, but I have been plugging away pretty relentlessly on one project in particular. You may remember a couple of months ago, probably now, I bought some beautiful yarn for Rich to make him some special birthday socks. This yarn, which is the West Yorkshire Spinners signature 4-ply, it's in their Country Birds collection, and this is Mallard. Before I cast that on, I did want to make sure that I had his kind of sock recipe down a little bit, because I noticed with mine that I'm kind of still figuring out what that is. So I thought I'd give, you know, one trial pair of socks a go. And I'm still working on them. I literally don't know what to do with these socks. Let me show you. So this is the first sock, and as you can see, it's not finished. I will come to why shortly. This is the Regia Perfect by Arne and Carlos, and as you can see, the pattern is amazing. Who knew it could be so lovely when you knit it the right way round? So that's sock number 1. This is sock number 2. Now, yesterday I was about halfway through this red and purple band, but I went to fibre east. So that's train knitting, that's sitting around talking knitting, and train knitting coming home. And by the time I got home, I knit a little bit more and I managed to start the heel flap. So I'll be working on that later today. I do much prefer turning the heel and getting the gusset started at home, just because I still do refer to the Meanwhile at the Castle video. I do intend to kind of write everything down step by step so that I can do it on the go and have my own sock recipe really set in stone. But I'm still kind of at a stage where I need to see it visually, so that's fine. I will get that done tonight, hopefully. So that whizzed through. That leg, zoom, so quick. It's quite a bit bigger than mine because he's quite a bit bigger than I am, but I whizzed through that really quickly, which is pretty much what I did with this. You know, the leg went fairly quickly. I was pretty much only knitting on it at work on lunchtimes, but it still, you know, it went. And I turned the heel and I did the gusset, and the gusset took forever. Oh God, like getting back down to the right number of stitches just took forever. And then the red started, literally about maybe 2 inches after I'd finished the gusset. So the gusset finishes there and it starts here, obviously. Maybe about 1.5 inches, 2 inches. Terrible at estimating size. I mean, that could be 5 and I probably wouldn't know. So I had a bit of a panic thinking, oh no, I'm gonna run out of red. I'm gonna run out, it's gonna hit yellow before I've even finished the toe. So far so good, but I'm starting to think that Rich is trolling me. Because every time I came home and I was like, right, I've done a bit more, pull it on. I measured it, okay, how much more till I can do the toe? And there always seemed to be 5 centimetres. Doesn't matter how much knitting I get done on my lunch break, always 5 centimetres. So I think that he is laying in bed at night and like growing his toes. I think he's climbing into a grow bag every morning. Whatever he's doing, his feet just seem to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And one day when he wasn't here, I just looked at it and went, I'm sure that's 5 centimetres. I'm sure it is. I'm just going to start the toe. And I started the toe and I finished the toe and I got him to try it on and it was a little bit tight. So I've pulled back and I'm going to, you know, maybe knit a couple more rounds before the decrease round, because I've been decreasing every other, or I might pull the toe out completely. As you can see, I'd already cast on sock number 2 before realising that sock number 1 didn't quite fit. But in here I do have plenty of red. Well, I say plenty, that's how much red I've got left. And some yellow, so he might have to have a yellow tippy toe. But I have got enough, I think, to finish this sock. I just need to find the will to do so. But I want to do that before I hit the foot proper on this one so that I can use this first one as a guide. But yeah, men's socks. I knew it was bigger than mine. I knew that. I could tell by the numbers, but my goodness, I had no idea that he was just going to keep growing his feet. I thought he'd stopped growing, but apparently not. I am thinking that when this is done, I'm going to cast on a sock for me because I want to, and I have some really pretty yarn, and I feel like I'm really close to getting my numbers down, so I want to have another go for me. I donated my pink pair to one of our house guests who was staying. She's moving to Scotland, so I thought she would need some lovely toasty warm feet. But yeah, I'm going to keep working on it. Just kind of mulling over now whether to reduce my needle size again or to reduce my stitch count. I think I might reduce my stitch count just to see what happens. But yeah, the never-ending sock. There's one more thing I've been working on, which I'm kind of thinking I might just frog and call it a day, but I'm going to show you. So ages and ages and ages ago I decided I wanted to make my friend's little girl some watermelon booties. I can't remember the name of the designer off the top of my head. I will put it on the screen. I think it was Hopeful Honey, and it's the watermelon booties. And they look beautiful. Look up the pattern. They are gorgeous. They are so cute. And this is what mine looks like. I mean, this is absolutely appalling. This is so bad. I mean, what? This looks terrible. And I don't think it's the fault of the pattern at all, because as I say, they look gorgeous in the pattern. Maybe they'll look better on, but I just feel like they're just weird and baggy and they don't have a nice flat bottom. I can crochet, despite all evidence to the contrary. I can crochet. I'm working on a crochet blanket. I have crocheted blankets before. For the little one that these little booties were supposed to be for, I made her the crochet girl gang blanket, which was a variety of squares crocheted together with a border. I can crochet, but I have never ever done 3D crochet. I've only ever done flat, blankets, squares, etc., stripes. So I think I have followed the instructions incorrectly. This is awful. I've got loads of yarn left. It's in Paintbox Cotton DK. I've got loads and loads left. In fact, I was going to turn the leftovers into little crocheted circles, so I can stop using cotton pads to put my toner on. I was going to make little cotton pads for my face that I can wash and keep using with the leftovers. Might as well use the whole lot to do that, because that's terrible. Look at that. It's so horrible. It looks like, I don't even know, like a little boat of some kind. It's definitely nothing like a foot. So bad. This is actually terrible. To any crocheters out there who have crocheted 3D, if you have any tips, preferably a video, because I prefer visual medium when I'm following instructions. If there is any make your own booty video that I could follow, I would really appreciate it. I'd love to make these. I'd love to make a few of them for other friends who are having babies. But this is terrible. And we'll go, into the bin. I'm trying to pretend there's going to be some life for this, but let's face it, I might just pull out the yarn and have another go. But if you do know of any make your own booty videos or blogs with good photographs that have worked for you, please do help me. So yeah, swings and roundabouts with my making. Now that it's cooled down a little bit, I'm hoping to pull out one of my jumpers again. We've got a big drive coming up when we head down to Cornwall for our summer holiday, and I am hoping to finally cast on a gift for a friend that I need to work on really soon. So I will probably take that and a jumper project and a sock project to Cornwall. So that gives me kind of handbag knitting, something nice and small to be working on, because the gift I'm making will be in pieces, and hopefully I'll be able to put that long drive to good use. But despite the fact that I haven't been knitting or crocheting loads, I have had a couple of little knitty excursions, which I would like to tell you about. So first up, last weekend I met up with Rachel of the Crafty Historian, and we visited a couple of shops in London. So we went to Wild and Woolly and Knit with Attitude. We didn't have time to make it to Loop, because on the way to Loop we spotted Sew Over It out of the bus window, and we jumped off and we went and had a look there, which is a gorgeous shop. I've never been before. Lisa Comfort really knows how to create a beautiful space. I really recommend visiting if you are a sewist, as I hope to be one day. And yeah, it's just a lovely shop. I will be definitely going back. But I did treat myself to a couple of knitty things before we did go to Sew Over It. The first two things I picked up were in Sew Over It, and I think that's hair attached to it, so I'm going to pull that off. So I really like West Yorkshire Spinners. It's absolutely gorgeous. I really like the patterns, and I decided to buy a couple of skeins. I spotted the Christmas skein, and I thought how lovely it would be to have a nice pair of Christmas Day socks. I was a bit inspired by Amy. I thought I'm never going to make 25 pairs of Christmas socks, but a nice Christmas Day pair would be lovely. And then I saw this red, and I have yet to make a pair of socks with contrasting heels and toes, and I thought that would be pretty perfect. And I also picked it up because it's a pretty good match for the Neverending socks for Rich. So if I do need some more red for the toe, I can pull from this. But red is quite a good colour, I think, for heels and toes. So that'll just live in my stash, I think, just to brighten up my socks a little bit. So yeah, that makes me very happy. It was an absolutely boiling day when we were wandering around London. It was absolutely just sweltering. And I bought Christmas yarn. So, it's the Brit in me. It's my hankering for cooler days. and I now have them, and it'd be quite nice to cast these on soon. At the moment, I only have one pair of sock knitting needles. I really do need to change that. Once I've kind of got down what size I want to use regularly, I am going to buy a couple, because then I can have, you know, like a pattern sock on the go, a vanilla sock, one for me, one for Rich. It'd be quite good to have a couple on the go, I think. We then went to Knit with Attitude, which is absolutely beautiful. What a place. They had such an amazing range. It was just gorgeous. And they had a lot of art there, which I really appreciated. They had a print that I very nearly bought, and I held myself back because I knew I was going to Fibre East, and I knew that, you know, payday hadn't come round just yet. But it was a beautiful print of a teacup with a storm in it. Storm in a teacup, and I just thought it'd be perfect for me. But what I did buy, I only picked up one thing, and it was one of these. So this is not yarn, obviously. This is from the Craftivist. So all this is a little card with a dot-to-dot face on it, which is of J.K. Rowling, and one of my most favourite quotes from the Harry Potter series, which is, "It takes a great deal of bravery to stand up to our enemies, but just as much to stand up to our friends," which resonates with me on so many levels. Firstly, I love Neville Longbottom. I make no secret of that fact. I think he is awesome, and this is actually about his bravery in book 1, The Philosopher's Stone. But I do think it's really pertinent, because I think it's very easy to dismiss some of the things our friends say and not challenge them on it, because, you know, they're our friends, it's just banter. We know they don't mean it, it's just a joke. And actually, sometimes you do need to call your friends on it, potentially more so than anyone else in the world, because you're right there and you're able to educate them. And you know they're good people who will listen to you. But that was a sidetrack, so let's return to this. The idea is that it's a dot-to-dot, and you just poke the holes into the card, and then you use the red thread provided just to follow it round, and you have hand-stitched one of your heroes. So I was really happy with all that. I feel like I can buy sock yarn now. I do have a lot of sock yarn before I even could knit socks, because I live in hope. But now I do knit socks, and I feel like it's fine. Even though my stash storage is kind of full, it's fine, because they're going to get cast on pretty much immediately, so it's fine. Then yesterday, today is Sunday, yesterday I got up nice and early, and I met Ellie of Skein Deer Knits, and we headed off to Fibre East together, where we met the lovely Katie of Inside Number 23 and Amy of Stranded. And we had a lovely day together, and I wasn't intending to buy anything. We did our first loop, and I spotted a few things that made me really, really happy, so I picked them up. The first thing I bought was this tiny little notions pouch, and I'm just going to double check the name of the stall. It was, I don't know if that's Jibby Roo or Libby Roo. I will find out, and I will put it in the down bar, but it's, I think, Jibby Roo Sews, but as I say, I will check. She had the most beautiful project bags, baby things, little bags like this, and I have a lot of large notion bags where I put all of my notions in, like as a storage, but I don't have anything really small to chuck in my handbag or in my project bag that keeps all my notions together. And I've been thinking for ages that that would be super handy. And when I saw this, I just had to have it. I actually saw another teacup print. It was like a tealy blue with paler blue teacups on it. But I saw this, and it has cake as well. Tea and cake. It is literally so appropriate for me. I had to have it. And just before I paid, I clocked that she had some really cool stitch markers. Just pull it straight, there we go. I had to have it. I had to have it. For those of you who can't see, in fact, pretty much all of you, because it's tiny, but if you don't recognise this, this is beans on toast. It's a little Fimo slice of toast with beans on. And beans on toast is literally one of my favourite things to eat, which sounds a bit pathetic. But whenever I'm feeling a bit sad, or I'm not very well, or I just want a quick and easy dinner, beans on toast with cheese on top. There's no cheese on this, but I love beans on toast. So I had to get this Progress Keeper because it's just so me. Tea and cake, beans on toast. should probably have the beans on toast first because tea and cake sounds like pudding. But I will link to her just below because I massively recommend what she does. Absolutely beautiful, beautifully made. The zip runs really nicely. One of my pet hates with project bags is when you have a really stiff zip. It drives me mad. And finished with this really beautiful little tassel on the end. So I spotted lots of things on my loop that I really wanted to go back for, but I did have a budget because, you know, payday was only on Friday and we do have a holiday in August, so I couldn't get everything I wanted. I did write a lot down. I have got some colour favourites from Triskelion for my next sweater quantity that I buy. Don't need to buy a sweater quantity just yet, but I have written them down. I've got an idea of some favourites from the Wool Barn that I would really love to buy to make a Vertices Unite. And there was a really beautiful skein called the Midnight Sea from Third Vault Yarns that I really wanted to go back for, but I couldn't squeak it into my budget. So those are all things that are on my wish list for when I have a little bit more money. The first thing I had to go back for was this. Isn't that the most beautiful thing you have ever seen? One of the things I really wanted, two of the things I really wanted to knit once I learned how to knit socks was the tube map socks. So I'm kind of keeping an eye out to try and get the tube map yarn. I'm from London. I love the tube. I don't love the tube. I love the convenience of the tube. You know, the London Underground map is something that I have grown up seeing and it's kind of iconic to me, so I really do want to make some socks out of that. And I've always wanted a pair of completely mad rainbow socks, and I think this fits the bill. This is Felt Fusion, and I will link to them below. It is in their superwash merino nylon sock, and it is in the colourway rainbow, of course. And it is just so beautiful. Isn't that just lovely? I cannot wait to have a pair of these socks. This is going to be probably my first indie die cast on, I think. The reason I'm using commercial yarn is because it's that little bit cheaper. It's that little bit less special to me, you know, for any number of reasons. So I don't mind kind of practicing and working on socks on the commercial yarn. And this is going to be my first kind of confident cast on. You know, casting it on, knowing that it's going to fit. And these will be my happy day socks. If I'm having a great day, these are going to go on. If I need a bit of cheering up, these are going to go on. Because you cannot be sad with rainbow socks. It's just impossible. The second thing I bought may make you chuckle, because earlier on in this episode I said I thought I'm never going to make 25 pairs of Christmas socks. But when I was at the Felt Fusion booth, I spotted a Christmas sock set. It was a candy cane stripe main skein with a green contrast skein for heels and toes, and I lost my mind over it, and I nearly went back and bought that too, but I chose the rainbow one instead. But then I saw some Christmas yarn that I just couldn't walk away from it. Look! West Yorkshire Spinners is fast becoming one of my favourite commercial yarns. It knits up beautifully. I love the colours, I love the patterns. It feels really nice to work with and they feel really nice on. I would like to try some Knit Picks beachy one day, so I might try and get in on, you know, with a few friends to do an international order, because I would love to try it, because I have felt a pair of socks in beachy and it is buttery. But I had to have this because look at those beautiful Christmassy stripes. It's just going to be gorgeous. And it came with this little skein of red, so I can have my contrast toes and heels again as well. So I'm really chuffed with this. It makes me really happy. And I think what I'll do is I will make a pair of Christmas Eve and Christmas Day socks and maybe some Boxing Day socks. I'm so tempted because I have seen how happy Amy of Stranded is with her Christmas socks, so like Advent socks, and I am really tempted to have a go myself, but not this year. We'll see next year. Maybe I'll buy a couple of Christmas skeins this winter and see what happens. But I do have enough now to make Christmas Eve, Christmas Day and Boxing Day. I've got my two West Yorkshire spinners, and I have a skein of Nora George 12 trees. So I think that makes a nice little trio for Christmas. The last thing I bought, I actually do not know where I bought it from, because I thought that there was a little card inside the project bag that I'm about to show you, and there isn't. So if you went to Fibre East, please do let me know if you recognise this, because I would love to link to the shop, because it was a beautiful little stall. Unfortunately, I just saw so many stalls yesterday, I've kind of muddled in my head what was what. The reason I bought this project bag is because a lovely lady came over to say hello to Amy, and she showed off this project bag, and I fell in love with it, and I said, oh my goodness, where did you get that? And she pointed to the tent. All the other things that I wanted, I had written down in my phone, either to go back to or for future reference. So I don't have this written down either, so please do tell me if you recognise it. Because look how beautiful it is. It's just stunning. It's like this kind of quite rustic like fabric on the outside. I think it might be wool, but I'm not sure. It's lined with this beautiful floral, and you know I love me a floral, and this is amazing. It's got a cork handle with like little flecks of gold in, but this is just stunning. This is the little ring pull, and it is the cross section of a shell that's got gold around the edge, and I just think that is so beautiful. And it's, you know, it's big enough, I think, to have like a shawl project or pop a couple of sock projects in there. I just thought it was so lovely, and I had to have it, and I'm kicking myself for not making a note of where it was from. I just thought it had a label on it, and it was only when I was unpacking things last night to show Rich and the people we had staying over that I realised, no idea, which is really frustrating, because I'd already pegged this as I wanted to buy a few for Christmas presents. I know my nan would love this. So yeah, help a girl out. If you know where this is from, please tell me. So that is almost everything from Fibre East and Wild and Woolly, my little kind of mini yarn crawl with Rachel of Crafty Historian. There is one more thing, and that is this beautiful skein of stranded dye works. This is in her Fjord base, which is gorgeous, and I absolutely love it. It is an 80-20 blend of superwash, BFL and nylon. And you might recognise this because it is part of the Tits Out collective. For those of you who don't know, this was a movement started by Countess Ablaze, who dyed a colourway called If I Want Exposure, I Will Get My Tits Out. And then, for various reasons, invited a few other dyers and designers and project bag makers to get involved. And this was Amy's interpretation of that original colourway, and she called it Bras Off a Clock. And the name made me laugh. I think the colourway is stunning, and I cannot wait to make a really cute pair of socks out of this. I'm tempted to have a go at doing something a bit different with these. I've got the Hermione's Everyday pattern earmarked for my Paper Stories Pansy Parkinson yarn, but I'd like to have a go at maybe doing one of the Tits Out patterns with this if I can find a sock pattern that I really love. But yeah, I'm very excited to be working with this. It is gorgeous, and you know, the money went to a good cause. So yeah, I got that off of Amy, and she delivered it to me at Fibre East, and that was very kind of her. So that's it for knitty and fibre yarny content. That was a more stash than actual making, which I hope the balance will shift in the next couple of weeks, because, you know, as I've said, I have dedicated stash storage. I have reached, you know, the upper limits of it. I just need to make some space in there for the future, really, so that I've got space for more knitting and yarny goodies. So need to knit a little bit faster. So that is it for the creative content in this episode. I will be moving on to knit and natter. I've had a couple of people kind of comment on wanting more of the creative stuff in the podcast than the knit and natter stuff. 9 times out of 10, what I talk about in knit and natter is not necessarily about creative stuff. Sometimes I'll talk about sewing, sometimes I'll talk about thought knitting, future plans, things like that. But if that is not what you're interested in and you are only here for the knitting and yarny content, totally understand. That is it for this week, and I hope I will see you again for the next episode. But if you are sticking with me, it is time to move on to Knit and Natter. Today's Knit and Natter, I wanted to talk a little bit about why I have been away from the podcast a little bit. I have alluded to kind of life being busy, and in many ways it has been busy in a positive way. I started a new job, I have been running a lot, I'm sticking to a training schedule which is really working for me. I've been socialising a lot, seeing a lot of my friends and family. I've also been working a lot. I have had, I think at one point I was doing 3 jobs in June, which was a lot, and that was all true. That was all a lot of work, but there were some other things going on that I was not ready to share then, that I would like to share now. Before I dive into that, I would like to put a trigger warning here, because what I'm about to talk about is women's health. There are going to be potentially people watching this who are experiencing women's health issues, who are concerned, who are undergoing like an investigation to find out what's going on. So I'd just like to say, if you think this might be triggering for you, you know, maybe this is not the segment to watch this week. It is something that I considered not talking about, but actually when I was going through it, I didn't feel like there was enough out there for me to look at and to feel less alone. I'm not going to go into crazy detail, but I just wanted to put it out there just in case this is a struggle you or someone close to you is undergoing, that maybe this might not be something you want to engage in. Please also be aware before I start this story that your mileage may vary. I am going to share something that is very, very personal to me, very particular to me. You might have similar symptoms, you might have a similar experience, but I do urge you to speak to your GP, because what worked for me, what was right for me, may not necessarily be right for you. So I am not a medical professional. Please, if you have any concerns whatsoever, please do go and see your doctor. So what was going on was fairly long. It's lasted several months. So I'm not going to go into crazy amounts of detail because frankly we'd be here all night. But in summary, back in October, I think I mentioned it, I came off the contraceptive pill. I had a hard couple of weeks coming off it. I felt very unwell. It was winter time, so perhaps I was just sick. But anyway, everything was fairly unsettled for a while, and then it settled down. In February and March, I had irregular periods. And the first time it happened in February, I thought, not going to worry about it. You know, I have just come off the pill. Things had been levelling out, but only for a couple of months. So, you know, it's probably just that. When it happened again, I decided that was more of a pattern and I needed to go to my GP. I am somebody who, when there is an issue, will go to the GP. That's just kind of my default. I don't miss boosters, I don't miss tests or anything like that. So it felt very natural for me to notice a pattern and go to the GP. I was fully expecting to be told not to worry. I had just come off the pill. It was probably just my hormones settling. And actually what the GP told me was that he would have expected it to have settled down by then. So just as a precaution, he was going to send me for various tests. That was quite a shock to me. I really didn't think that was going to happen, and I was a little bit stunned and obviously a little bit worried. But I was also quite pleased that he was taking it seriously. So I went through several tests and everything came back clear with the exception of a scan which showed I had a cyst. The radiographer said, don't worry too much, we'll get you in 6 to 8 weeks just to keep an eye on them. So I went back to my GP, who was a different doctor this time. The first one I'd seen was a locum who was lovely. And he kind of looked at the report and worried me slightly by kind of looking very worried and going, we need to get you to a gynecologist as soon as possible. And I was quite stunned by that because I was not expecting that kind of concerned reaction. So I was put on I was given an appointment for a gynecologist and for another scan, and I had those, And this is when I had a real moment of fear, because it transpires that the cyst I have is pressing down on my ovary quite firmly, and the consultant said that it would need to come out, that I could potentially lose the ovary because it was quite large and pressing down, and that he would need to check that it wasn't malignant. Thankfully, I had Rich at that appointment with me, because I did come out and go, this is it, I've got something awful, there is something really badly wrong with me. And I spent several weeks very concerned. I am a glass half full kind of person, so I was on the whole, I was okay, but I was very concerned. I had to have an MRI, which was not fun because I am claustrophobic, and I had to dig pretty deep to get through that. I had various blood tests, and I went back a couple of weeks ago and saw my consultant, who thankfully said, you are fine. There is no trace of malignancy. It is benign. We do need to get it out because it is quite large. So I am on a waiting list to go and see, to go and have an operation. There is a chance that I might experience pain and need to go to A&E in the meantime, but so far I've had no symptoms. I haven't even had any more irregular periods. The reason I'm sharing this is because this is a lot of the reason why I didn't podcast when I did have time. I didn't feel up to it. A lot of the times in the evenings when I was worrying, I didn't even want to knit. I just wanted to sit and worry, which is not ideal. But I lost my mojo, and I think a lot of that was to do with the worry that I was undergoing. And a couple of weeks of real fear, because I did think that there was something potentially very, very, wrong with me. And I was very scared to go into that second appointment. I had kind of convinced myself before I went in that everything was going to be fine. But when you actually sit down in the chair and you're waiting, there's that pause before someone speaks to you, there is that moment of just absolute fear. And I just wanted to share that, because if there is anything in your body that you kind of think, oh, that's not normal for me, that's not right, please go and see a GP. It may be nothing. You may get the pretty much all clear that I got. You may find something that you had no idea you had, like I did. I'm very lucky that this didn't reach a point where I was in pain before seeking help. I'm sorry for getting a little bit heavy there, but it was something I said, I mulled over sharing versus not sharing, and actually I thought, you know what, I have had the all clear, I feel comfortable sharing this. I didn't feel comfortable at the time because it was too scary for me to even articulate what was going on. But now, if maybe one or two people, check in with themselves and go to the GP or the doctor, just to make sure that everything is fine, that will be worth sharing this. I am absolutely fine. As I said, I am due to have an operation in a couple of months. I haven't got a date yet, but I'm expecting it to be kind of end of September-ish. So I'll probably disappear for a little while then. Hopefully get a lot of knitting done. But yes, just please take the time to understand your normal and then notice when something isn't right. We all have different normals. We all have, when I was in school, I was taught that a cycle was 28 days. And actually, that's not my normal. My normal is more like 30. And I've only learnt that by tracking it and working out averages. Just please, for me, please take the time to figure out what your normal looks like, so that when something doesn't quite work, or if something isn't working as well as it should, you will see really, really soon, and you can go and you can get the reassurance that you need. To anybody watching this who is experiencing this and the outcome is not good, if you have a loved one who went through all this and they didn't get the result that it was benign, I am so sorry, and I hope that you're okay, and I hope that you are getting what you need. And that is treatment, of course, but sometimes that's also self-care. That's taking the time to make sure that you are mentally as well as you can be, because the strain I was under just for a couple of weeks just was intense and exhausting. And if that is something you are undergoing for a prolonged period of time, my heart goes out to you, because honestly it was very difficult for me, and I am sending you all the positivity and love in the world, and I hope that you are getting what you need. I will see you very soon. I'm hoping to squeeze in one more episode before I go away in early August, and then I will be back after August, and I will be returning to my usual every other week schedule when I get back from my holiday, with a little pause perhaps at the end of September, just because I'll need some time off to recover. I'm really excited to be back. I hope you're happy to have me back, and I will see you very soon for another cup of tea. Take care. Bye. Never ending song, la 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 la.